how a California nonprofit is bringing computer science to middle and high school students. Next on the K-12 Engineering Education Podcast. I'm Pius Wong in Austin, Texas. My guest is Rosemary Kamei. Rosemary is part of the leadership team at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation, or SVEF, a nonprofit focused on equitable K-12 education. SVEF has several programs, including a newer one for K-12 computer science. I spoke with Rosemary about how the program's going, especially during the pandemic in a tech-heavy place like Silicon Valley.
My name is Rosemary Kamei, and I'm the Chief Development and Innovation Officer. The Education Foundation targets STEM education, especially for students who are furthest away from access and opportunity in the Silicon Valley area. Most people think that the Silicon Valley has everything that it's need, but there are some students, some families, some school districts who are certainly in need of greater access and opportunities to STEM education.
You do a lot in STEM education. I like that you talked about your mission a bit. I know that there's a lot of acronyms involved in what we're going to talk about today. One of them was, of course, SVEF, and also STEM education. What is STEM education for y'all? What topics, I guess, do you cover?
So in our STEM education programs, that is science, technology, engineering, and math. And one of the things that we're very well known for is our math programs. We have math in third grade through 10th grade, where we front load the curriculum to be able to help students who are just below proficiency to be able to move them up and give them a leg up to become better proficient in math. And you may ask, well, why math? Well, math has been known, especially algebra, has been known to be an indicator of future success. When you look at the studies that have been done, the studies show that if you are proficient in algebra, the thing about it is that it provides skills of critical thinking, and that has shown greater success in college and future careers. And that is exactly what we want to do to be able to help our students succeed in college and future careers. The other thing that we do is computer science. This was introduced a few years ago. That is an area that most people think of it as just coding. Well, it's more than just coding. It is a way of being able to do problem solving. Again, critical thinking and problem solving. And the students in the program learn skills that are going to help them in other areas, not just coding.
And the thing is, I teach math at the local community college, so I'm all in on your math program. I actually totally agree, and I see what you're saying. But I do want to focus in on CS. Here in Austin, we always are priding ourselves on the tech industry here and how computer science is really the backbone of a lot of the economy here, the culture here. I think it's something that maybe Silicon Valley and Austin shares. And one of the big problems that we see today is that there's an equity problem in CS. And I'm curious if, is this a huge issue, I guess, in Silicon Valley and in STEM education?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the last few years, one of the things that has been highlighted is that there are very few people of color who are in many of these big tech, high tech firms, right? And, you ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, what's happening? And what we find is that you really have to start younger so that students can see themselves in those positions. One of the things that we've done with trying to address the equity issue is our Computer Science Institute programs. In 2018, the state of California brought down their standards of computer science and what it would take to be able to put a program together. And we actually jumped on it because we see computer science as part of the STEM. I mentioned that we already do a lot in terms of math, and we call it Elevate Math. But the T, the E, and the M, I mean, the science, technology, and engineering portion had been very small. So, how do we bring that up? And we
Mm.
bring that up through our computer science program, where we have taken the students, especially those who do not see themselves as technologists, who do not see themselves as taking AP computer science, and open the doors to be able to explore what it would be like to do design thinking, what it would be like to do computational thinking in a very different way. So we take the summer, we have a very intense summer program targeted to students who are low income, students who perhaps have no exposure to computer science, and we teach them design thinking, and I mean we have a lens of design thinking and computing through a makerspace, and it allows students to realize that, you know what, this could be for me. And
Mm.
we started in seventh and eighth grade. And this year, this is our third year in our summer program. We hope to have a pipeline of students, sort of interested into high school, getting their certification, getting dual credit with high school and a community college, to be able to see themselves as future technologists. And this is in cybersecurity, internet, and other areas that perhaps has never been a thought.
Wow, you said several things that I want to touch back on. First of all, the first thing I was thinking of was that's interesting that the standards that came down from California were, it seems like it was pretty pivotal, I guess, in inspiring this program. Because, like you said, SVEF has done programs in STEM for 20 years, right? And yet the CS program is relatively new. I'm wondering if you could talk about how important the standards were in driving some of these CS programs.
Yeah, so as we as we looked at areas, in terms of our initiatives at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation that were going to be important, we saw that computer science addressed a need that has not been done. Many of the school districts, I mean, you would think that Silicon Valley would have this done already,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, but it has not. So there have been several obstacles in the way, but a lot of people, especially CS for CA, has really worked on trying to address and highlight the importance of computer science and how computer science for the future of work, for the future of our area, is going to be critical. And so when that happened in terms of adopting the standards, it was something that was celebrated, but only a few people were doing something about it. I think that what we see is that in the future, you're going to hear more about it because it provides the skills necessary for the jobs of tomorrow. Data
Mm,
science and other emerging fields are going to be coming, and we
yeah.
have to prepare our students for the future of tomorrow. The issue of equity, you have to start early in middle school, in high school, in order to get those students to be able to apply for those jobs in those high-tech firms. If those skills are not adopted early, it becomes very, very difficult later on. So what we're trying to do is create a pipeline of students who can be ready for the jobs of tomorrow.
Mm. And when you started your CS Institute, you said you started with those seventh and eighth graders. Why start there? I mean, I know obviously you said you want to start early, but so why not like kindergarten or why not end of high school? Why start this program at that middle school level?
So, one of the things that we did is we have a model that we have had a lot of success with our Elevate Math. And in
Mm-hmm.
Elevate Math, one of the things we did is we started in middle school as a point to be able to sort of turn things around, right? In our Elevate Math program, we went to middle school, we went to high school, and then we went back down. And that's why we're down into third grade to
Mm-hmm.
really, start earlier, right? There are some school districts who said, hey, why don't we start this in kindergarten? Why don't we start this in first grade? And we actually think that starting some portion of it in the early grades makes sense, but the pilot really was something that we wanted to learn from, right? There really has not been much out there in terms of successes or stories or research in terms of looking at the whole pipeline and where is the point at which sort of like create that success. So middle school for us made sense. And we started out with 10 classes. Last year we more than doubled. We got 22 classes. This year we're going to have 40 classes. So
Oh, wow.
sort of we keep doubling every year. It is very popular. Even through the pandemic, we had to figure out how to turn a very sort of like makerspace, hands-on activity to go virtual, and we did.
Yeah,
We
how did you do that? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Well, what we had to think about is okay, if you share and collaborate and all of that, how do you put it into a virtual space where you can do some collaboration, where you can have the materials? Because as I said, we teach this through making, and the students each had to have their own materials. So it's a little bit more expensive to be able to have a virtual setting, but it worked. It worked. The curriculum that we used, as well as the materials and the teacher professional development, went quite well. So much so that when the fall came around, the teachers that we have in our program, they are not computer scientists.
Hmm.
They're English teachers, social studies teachers,
Hmm.
science teachers.
Wow.
There's no need to have computer science background. But the professional development is very deep and intense. And it was actually requested from some of the districts that they use the curriculum and the teacher professional development during the school year as an elective program or as an after school program to help students stay engaged. So we've had quite a bit of success, and again this year we've doubled again the number of classes that we have.
Hmm. And just to clarify, so as part of the Computer Science Institute, you provide professional development to teachers.
Yes. So the teachers, we hire the teachers, and all the teachers are credentialed, and they go through about 30 plus hours of professional development. And one of the things that we have added is this year we've added the element of coaching to be able to help teachers in their classroom. So
Okay.
if you have a new teacher or a teacher who feels that, oh, I don't know about teaching computer science, they're going to have that support as well as the 30 hours of professional development that we do prior to the summer classes.
Got it. Got it. And you mentioned a lot of technology that originally and maybe still is very hands-on because when you started, of course, there was no pandemic. And I know that you use like the Raspberry Pi, you use microbits, different stuff like that. When you transitioned all of this into the pandemic era, did you have to just like distribute all this equipment to the teachers and they just sent it to kids' homes? What was the logistics of all that like?
Good question. Good
if
question.
you if you know the answer, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that the advantage that the Silicon Valley Education Foundation really had was that we made the decision early on to go virtual. We knew that, while many had not decided, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? When we made the decision to go virtual, we knew that there was going to be a distribution that needed to be addressed. We needed to figure out devices, and
Right.
making sure connectivity. It was a lot of work, but we actually work very closely with the school districts to identify that early. And one of the things that we do is in our enrollment, we have a couple of questions that we ask ahead of time. And we ask, do you have a device? Do you have, Wi-Fi? Are there things that, we should know? So in the enrollment of the student, we try to get that information early. And then we provide sort of we hire college mentors and college teaching assistants to help us with supporting the class, with supporting technology. And that's how we sort of help with distribution. And the other thing is that most of the times the schools that are going to be sort of the summer school facility, we arrange with the school district to do pickup, right?
Hmm.
So in some cases, I guess we could have mailed it, but it becomes very, very expensive, in terms of being able to do this. And we don't charge the student and the families. We actually work with many of the students who are from Title I schools. And so this is totally free of charge. We work with the school districts to identify the students that are high need. And so parents came and we kind of had a table and they identified themselves that they were part of the program. They pick up their packet and they took them home.
And so I can see how, especially during COVID, that's a huge part of promoting equity, making sure that everybody has access to technology. I guess you can't just give people internet access or all these other things. Are there other ways that you could promote equity, getting more access to, say, higher need students or more Black students, Hispanic students, other female students? How else can you promote equity in your computer science institute?
Well, when we work with school districts, they have the data that tells us which of the students that are higher need, which of the students, especially females, that we can recruit. So we work very closely with them to be able to get our recruitment list, to be able to sign them up for the classes. We are fortunate to have a lot of the staff who are bilingual in multiple languages, actually, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese. And we're able to do a lot of outreach. I mentioned that we hire college mentors and teaching assistants, and they assist us with reaching out to parents, reminding them, letting them know that the classes are coming up. And if there are issues when they're not attending, we call them up and say, are you having connectivity issues? Do you need help? And so there's a lot of support that surrounds this to be able to get students to succeed.
Hmm. I'm curious, especially because you're in Silicon Valley, do the so-called big tech companies, are they aware of what you're doing or programs like yours? And what do they think about that? Do they care about the K-12 pipeline at this moment? Or are they more focused on, we're going to hire people out of college?
So that's a good question, and I would say that many of the companies that we work with, yes, they do. They really care, and one of the elements that we have put in both for our math program and our computer science program is what we call STEM inspiration workshops. And in these STEM, every class will have a speaker who will talk to them about real world issues, how they ended up in the career that they're in, so that students have examples of how computer science, how math, how technology is able to uh, equate to a profession, a job in the future. To make that kind of connection. And we allow students to have dialogue with our speakers or presenters to be able to get that understanding. And even students in elementary, middle school, they ask a lot of good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we want them to start thinking about these things because if you don't have anyone in your circle, in your family, who is an engineer, who's a technologist, who is in data science, who's a scientist, this allows at least some exposure for the students to think about. And it's a process. It may take a few times to be able to say, "Hey, I want to be a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a mathematician. I want to be a teacher that teaches math because this is fun." And we do have pre and post surveys that we do to be able to gain information from the students, from the teachers, from the parents, to give us feedback on our program. So the other thing about access, and having it, like kind of looking at it from an equity lens. One of the things that we did last year was to introduce in Northern California an expansion of what we called a school to home program, where we go into a high need school and we provide support for the principal, teachers, and a team of teachers to be able to do digital literacy, because it wasn't enough just to say to a student, "Oh, here you go. Here's a
Hmm.
Wi a hotspot. Here's a computer." If you don't have the ability to have the digital literacy to maximize its use. And so our school to home program is something that last year it was 2 schools. This year it's going to be 4 schools. And it is looking at the entire school to be able to look at how we can increase the literacy of the students, the teachers, the parents, and parents are also involved in
Sure.
these training sessions. And this whole issue of access to broadband, access to technology is something that we are beginning to highlight more and more. And this month and next month, we have an initiative at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation to be able to address these broadband issues. And, I think that the pandemic sort of revealed the big digital divide.
Right.
So we're going to have a panel discussion on May 27th to be able to talk about what has been done at the federal level, what has been done at the state level, local level, at the community level to address the digital divide, right? Because it is huge. I mean, you think Silicon Valley wouldn't have any issues, but there are
Hmm.
certain zip codes that,
Mm.
it's unfortunate, but it exists even in our backyard.
And who have been good allies for SVEF or your students? For example, here in Texas, if there are other programs, schools, or nonprofits who want to do a similar initiative and create their own version of a computer science summer program or something, who should they look to get support?
Well, one of the things that I think was very helpful is that we have great relationships with our school districts. And when we introduced this, they partnered right away. So I would say, in terms
Mm.
of being able to work closely with your school districts to be able to do that. The other thing is that here we have a Silicon Valley STEM ecosystem where there is STEM ecosystems throughout the nation. And I'm sure in Texas they would have that as well.
Right.
And looking at those who are most involved in STEM, we have partners with corporations who are very, very interested in being able to promote STEM education. And they provide the financial support to be able to get students in this pipeline because they realize that they're going to need future employees who have these skills. And it would be great to go in your own backyard to be able to do it. Companies such as Cisco, PwC, they see the future of being able to have that pipeline and to increase equity. The thing is that if you don't have that pipeline of students, as I said earlier, it's hard to be able to see it when they're, like at a college. And I think that one of the distinctions in our program for the Computer Science Institute is that we want students to have a choice, right? I mean, for the longest time, everyone was talking about go to college, go to college, go to college. And yes, I think it's wonderful to be able to go to college. But if we have our students coming out of high school with a certification in cybersecurity, in the Internet of Things, in other technology fields, they have a skill and the option of being able to have that even before college. So, I know that in my case, I had to work through all my 4 years of college. You're going to get a better position, a better job if you have those skills already, right?
Mm.
And so we want our students who are furthest away from access and opportunity to be able to have those skills and have them early so that they have choices.
What does success look like for your computer science programs this next summer or in the future? How will you measure if the program is doing what you want, if it's being equitable enough, if it's teaching enough kids?
So, in terms of equity, we look at the students who need it the most, right? And we're working on identifying with the school districts to be able to help those students. So that's number one. The other thing is success for us is going to take some time, because what we want to see is that the pipeline is going to grow and be successful, that students actually get those certifications, those skill building. We want students to open that door to the possibility of being a technologist. And you notice I don't say engineer or
Mm-hmm.
specific to anything, or computer
Yeah.
scientist. We want them to be technologists of the future, right? And so to me, if we can have a student say, hey, I can work on websites. I don't mind doing a little bit of coding. I can do these other things that perhaps they never would have even thought of, as a future skill or a future career. I think that, to me, that is success.
It's interesting. You talk about it in the way that sometimes music educators will talk about music, or art teachers will talk about art, that they want students to be able to play music or create art. And in this case, we want people to create technology or use technology. And it doesn't necessarily have to be what they quote unquote do for the rest of their life. Is that a fair characterization?
It's a skill that you can build upon, right? I mean, I think that I consider myself a lifelong learner. And when you're able to have the ability or the knowledge of how to solve problems, I started
Mm.
this by saying that computer science, in our view, is how to solve problems, right? And if you can do that, it opens many doors in many different careers. So yeah, I mean, I think that it is a skill that everyone should have.
Mm. I like how you mentioned that you want to be, or you consider yourself, a lifelong learner. I'm curious, how did you get into STEM education? Was that a career you always were in?
No, my and see, this is part of being a lifelong learner, right? So I went to school at the University of Wisconsin Madison, and I was a political scientist, right?
Mm.
But I always was interested in many different things. So my curiosity, I'm a curious person. So I like to know how things work. I like to be able to see things in many different lights. I like a lot of things. And so when I became the vice president at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation of Innovation, one of the areas that was very exciting for me was to be able to open up this and start this program in computer science. And to me, it became very, very natural because of the whole idea of problem solving.
You're definitely in the right place at the right time. So,
Yeah.
and I guess I should have asked earlier. I know that we've already spoken for a while, but I'm wondering if you could talk just a little bit about who are the students and families in your community. Can you describe Silicon Valley, or the students that you're serving?
Yeah. So we have many of our school districts that we work with who have over 55% free and reduced lunch meals. And there's an area in San Jose, East San Jose, that has the highest concentration of Latinos, Vietnamese, African American. That is the community that we work with. When you look at the demographics of the county in which we work, and actually we work in several counties because we work in the Bay Area as well, but
Mm.
you can see that some school districts are high wealth so that there are enough resources to be able to give the students a lot of electives, a lot of enrichment programs. And then there are school districts who are in a less affluent and really poor area where the per pupil spending doesn't sufficiently support what is needed for those students. In California, the local control funding formula changed a few years ago to be able to give more dollars to some of those areas of high need. But I think that the whole discussion of equity is huge because there are many different issues in in different communities that cannot be addressed. Or in our area, homelessness has become a huge issue. And in the pandemic, it's even gotten exacerbated. I know that there's a lot of federal dollars that are going to be coming to the community, as well as state dollars coming to the community to be able to address a lot of the learning loss.
Mm.
But in addition to the learning loss, there are homeless students, there are students who have food insecurity, there are a myriad of other issues that need to be addressed.
How can people find out more about the Silicon Valley Education Foundation or your CS Institute?
I would really like people to go to our website at svefoundation.org, and you can get information about our programs. You can get information about us, as well as contact us at development@svef.org.
All right, thanks. And you said there was an event next week, actually, but by the time this episode airs, it might be like exactly when it's happening. But do you have like a link or any information about that event on the 27th?
Yes, it's also on our website, and we
Okay.
will provide a link to view it, so that there will be a possibility to view it after the event. And
Okay.
this whole issue of the digital divide, we are spending the entire month of June to highlight the issue, because we know that we're not the only ones in Silicon Valley having this issue. I'm sure that
Mm-hmm.
many other areas, and your listeners can also see what other areas are concerned about the digital divide. And we now are operating, whether it's our healthcare. You can't do telehealth without access to broadband, right, or a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do many of the things that we need to do. I mean, how are you going to have our students continue online learning without broadband? And so it's a big question mark as to those who are able to access information and those who cannot. So I think that it is something that we are very concerned about. And I know a lot of other communities are concerned about it. And so they can come listen, as well as I think that we'll probably have other things happening to be able to discuss and address these issues.
All right, Rosemary Kamei, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really appreciate your time and your programs.
Well, thank you so much, Pius. I really appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you and your audience.
That was Rosemary Kamei, CDO of the Silicon Valley Education Foundation. Find links to SVEF and their event about the digital divide in the show notes for this episode. The K-12 Engineering Education Podcast is sponsored by my creative studio, Pios Labs, in Austin, Texas, where I consult on engineering and education, making podcasts, programming educational technology, training professionals, and more. Follow Pios Labs on the internet to learn more. That's PIOSLABS. This podcast is possible thanks to grade A plus people donating to the show on Patreon each month. Help me continue the podcast. Donate to the show at patreon.com/PiosLabs. Also, if you leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to the show, that would greatly help people find this podcast too. Find the podcast website for show notes, links, transcripts, and more. Go online to k12engineering.net. That's K, the number 12, engineering.net. Thank you, listener, and until next time.